What's going on, good people of the internet? And it's time for OnComicsGrounds.com's flagship podcast, Panel to Panel, where a bunch of folks shoot the breeze and talk about comic books and such. We are live once again, talking about all that good comic goodness and nerdy news as we do every good week for you folks. This week, episode 59, yes, 59 is a special one for us, folks. So get ready for a best episode ever, because it's going to be a emotional episode. So get ready for that. That was the weirdest way I could have phrased that.
Emotional.
Don't forget, folks, that you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, and Amazon Music, Pandora. Basically anywhere you want to listen to a podcast besides SoundCloud, we are on there. So please check out all those platforms. I'm currently working on getting an Audible affiliate link for us, because I feel like that'd be really cool if we could do that, since we're actually on Audible, because it's honestly been kind of nice when I'm done reading a book, I can listen to some of our old episodes, and it's been kind of fun. So check us out if you want to listen to us on one of Amazon's services or any other service. Please let us know and follow us and subscribe to us there. We will be setting up Apple subscriptions soon, where you can get special content like the extra little bloopers we recorded before we started, where Mary defended a weird ship that we will not talk about right now. And
Shut up! Don't call me out like that.
Too late. Things that we are planning on putting up for you folks, so you will be able to put up a small fee to subscribe to us and help out support the podcast. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at PTP_podcast, where you can talk to our social media manager, Ian, about all things comic goodness, where he was able to do a really cool thing and shout out Gail Simone on her birthday the other day, which was really cool. Everyone loved that. So make sure you talk to him and have a good time as we're doing super cool stuff on the interwebs. And you can check out the website on comics-ground.com for all kinds of reviews, previews, solicitations, and more every weekday. Yes. For you good folks out there. We are currently... Hey, man, it's been a rough year, okay? Rough 2 years. But we're getting back into the swing of things. So, we are going to jump straight into this episode for you folks. So, how do I phrase this in a interesting... not an interesting way, but like a good way. So in the information that came to me that he had passed, I was hurting because I knew my sister was hurting, and I knew that the minute we were all good and we were back up on our feet, I needed to have her speak on this man for a whole episode. So, Mary, let's talk about your dad.
Yeah, my dad's dead.
My dad. Why did you have to do it like that? I tried to be so on point, like so respectful.
That's why I had to. My dad was a smart ass bastard, and if anybody would have appreciated that, it would have been him.
Oh.
So, my dad, he passed away a few months ago, and it was, his name is Calvin. And it was from a degenerative brain disease that we strongly suspect could be CTE. Chronic, I'm dyslexic, I can't pronounce that shit. So CTE, it's what a lot of the NFL players are dying from, is repeated head trauma. He was an explosives expert in the Marine Corps in the 70s and 80s. So they were still using those massive, Hellfire cannons from Vietnam, and it's a mounted cannon right next to your head.
Oh.
Yeah. Travis, okay?
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm cool. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just getting some weird feedback.
Making sure you're not dead.
No, I'm good.
But it's those big, hellfire, dragonfire cannons or whatever that are mounted right next to your head. And they, your brain rattles in your skull when impact and forces hit it like that. And the army of neurologists that we eventually took him to see him to said he could have had, dozens, if not hundreds of micro concussions as a result. And there were just repeated concussions throughout his life, and that it turns your brain into goop. And from diagnosis to his death, I'm using air quotes here, diagnosis, because CTE can only be diagnosed post-mortem, because they actually have to take your brain out and look at it. But from, the time we got the diagnosis that something was wrong to his death was about 13 years or so. So this has been a long, very slow decline. The decline is similar to that of dementia or slow-moving Alzheimer's. So it was, he would lose a bit of himself every day. And it was very, very difficult to watch. And he was eventually put in a nursing home because it was just more care than anyone could have provided. And that is where he passed away. Victoria, my wife Victoria, and I, we were with him when it happened, and that's a visual that's difficult to shake. But it was a long day. He passed very early in the morning. And it's been a rough couple of months for me, as one would expect. I was very close to my dad. And this all rounds about to my love of comic books. And it was all because of my dad. Dad was very into comic books, and he used them frequently throughout my life to, kind of help me get my way in the world or help me learn. My dad was born in 1958, and he first started buying comic books, and I want to say the mid-60s. So, think about all of the comic books that came out in the mid-1960s. Dad had a lot of them. He had a lot of the original Fantastic Four. He had a lot of the original X-Men. Like, he was a grade school kid, and, that's kind of the primo market for comics at the time. And then he enlisted in the Marine Corps, and my grandma thought he didn't want them anymore, so she threw them all away.
Oh God. That hurts my heart. Oh.
Pour one out for what could have been my college fund.
Oh, bro. No, just in general, because there's so many horror stories of, like, either war bonds or just parents throwing away comics that would be worth so much money these days. And it just hurts my heart, bro.
My mother-in-law, her father, so I guess my father-in-law or whatever, similar situation. He joined the military, and he bought comic books in the 30s and 40s. And his mother, so like my great-grandmother-in-law, I don't know how that shit works, when he enlisted into the army, she burned him because she was just burning extra garbage. So they literally went up in flames.
That hurts my heart, bro.
It hurts my heart. But, so comic books, from very early childhood meant a lot to my dad. And, it was something that, even after he got out of the Marine Corps, he kept up with for a very long time. And he finally kind of fell off the wagon in around the mid-90s. And that's because, I was a kid at the time. And children are expensive, and comics are typically one of the first things to get cut.
Jeez, Mary, look what you did.
I know, I'm terrible. But, so just before, some of the comics that I do still have are like the really early 90s, like extreme one. Oh God, I fucking love them.
Oh my God.
I love it. Unfortunately, a lot of my dad's books from the 70s and 80s were lost when we actually had a pipe burst in our bathroom.
Oh no.
And Dad had one of the little spinner racks in the bathroom because, well, dads. And unfortunately, a lot of ones that were on the bottom levels, they just got fucking ruined.
Damn.
I mean, it's newsprint, so it's like the consistency of wet newspaper.
Yeah.
So I only have a few admittedly very full comic boxes, but I only have a few boxes left of the books that he had. And my dad was one of those buys them to read them, but not necessarily to like keep them in, readable condition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm missing a lot of covers.
That's depressing.
Thanks, Dad. And my encyclopedic knowledge of comics and particularly characters and their origins actually comes from the fact that my dad feverishly bought those little encyclopedia books. But
Bro, I love those.
because Marvel released a bunch in single issue format.
Really?
And oh yeah, like if
Uh-oh.
you would open them up and it would be a full wraparound issue of all of those heroes with the names in that particular letter. And it was a full in-depth, it had like their marital status, their alignment, their various aliases, their origins, like it was literally like just codex entries.
Wow.
And so that is why I have so much bizarre knowledge about obscure history facts.
That's kind of baller.
Ugh. Excuse me, it's the height of allergy season, and then I decided to do an episode where I'm going to be talking a bunch.
How dare you?
So good job, Mary.
Oh,
Good
don't
on
worry. Next week you'll get somewhat of a break because it'll be me and Travis yelling into a void.
I'm good with that.
And then you'll have your moments because you're gonna want to
Oh,
bitch
yeah.
about stuff that happens.
James, I always want to bitch about stuff.
Yeah, but next week's gonna be different. It's our first roast in months.
Oh god, I'm so excited for that. Sometimes you just like to be a petty bitch.
Yes.
So, Dad would frequently, I've picked a few bullet points of how he would use comics with me as a kid. And, he would, my dad was he never quite got to finish college, but he was still a very well-educated man. He traveled the entire world when he was in the Marine Corps, and he was a gigantic nerd. So he would take all the opportunities to go see all of these fantastic world monuments and whatnot. He said that going into the Marine Corps was both the best and worst decision he ever made. Except I love telling this story, and he's gonna rise up and just beat me to death. He was in Rome, and they went sightseeing all over Rome. Like, they went to the Vatican. The one place my dad didn't go was the goddamn Colosseum.
Wow.
Completely slipped his mind until they were back on the boat and, leaving those waters. And he's like, God damn it, I forgot to go to the Colosseum. And he's like, you know what? I will go back to Rome and I will see the Colosseum. Guess what? He never did. And everyone teased him mercilessly for that for years. But anyway, my family, we all like to be dicks to each other.
No, that's fucking hilarious.
It's how we show we love each other. But, well, because Dad used to say, if you don't want to take the time to be a dick to somebody, then, that's when you don't care about them.
Exactly.
If I don't like you, I can't fuck with you.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta be able to fuck with people.
But, so Dad really studied philosophy very heavily. He studied it in college, philosophy, poetry, yada yada, which is very ironic because guess where my dyslexia comes from?
Oh.
Yeah, he couldn't read Shakespeare very well, but he had that same kind of tenacity that I did, where you really want to overcome it. So he would have one of his good friends read him passages, and Dad would memorize entire, scenes, acts, plays. The man could recite Shakespeare from memory just by, like, pulling it out of his ass. Like, but, he wanted to make philosophy accessible to me when I was a kid. And the character that he would do that the most with was Superman. Because if you think about philosophical superheroes, he's the first one that pops into every bench.
Yeah, especially with all the controversy that's been going on recently.
Exactly. And so this was, late 80s, early 90s Superman. So it was a lot of Dan Jurgens. And, that's where a lot of social commentary with Superman happened. I mean, Superman's always been social commentary.
Mm-hmm.
And, so let's put a random number on it. Say maybe this is like 96 or whatever. And, the Berlin Wall came down just a few years prior. We're seeing the end of Desert Storm. So there's a lot of turmoil going on internationally. It's just, it's the Clinton administration, so there's a lot going on. And Dad was really concerned about opinions that I would get about refugees just from school and pop culture osmosis and things like that. So my dad was a Marine, and for better or worse, he was unwaveringly patriotic even in the worst of times. So, we would sit down. We had this ancient ass porch swing, and Dad would be on the porch with, one of his trademark cigars or his pipe, and we'd have a comic. Oh, of course. Dad went to, I'm sure, every country in Europe when in the Marine Corps trying to find Cuban cigars. But, so we'd sit on the porch swing and he'd have a comic book, and, I'd be sitting next to him. He probably also shouldn't have been smoking with me that close, but it was the 90s. It was the 90s. Nobody knew what danger was. Actually, fun fact, seatbelts were not required in all vehicles until 1997.
Yep.
Fun history fact, kids. But, and like I said, he was afraid of opinions and attitudes I would pick up about refugees because, the city where I live, there is a very high population at the time of Bosnian refugees coming in from the Serbian conflict over there. And I went to high school with a lot of people who, came from that area and were refugees.
Oh.
And Dad sat me down, and, Superman's origin has been talked about a gajillion times. And Dad very carefully pointed out that Superman was from a different place. And, he dumbed it down for, my 5-6-year-old self. And he said that, look, Superman is from another place, and he came here as a baby. And, they took him in, and he grew up here. He was adopted. You know what being adopted is. And, talk to me about how just because people weren't born in the US doesn't mean that they're not Americans, kind of a thing. And he really tried to push that egalitarian mindset that Superman represents so wholeheartedly. And admittedly, he used both Superman and Supergirl as stories of this because Supergirl actually very much lines up with the refugee narrative more than Superman himself does. Because, Kara was, fully aware of Kryptonian society when the planet was destroyed. So, we would talk about that as well. See, I really liked Supergirl when I was a kid because, Superman but girl. So, my God, it's easy to think about, but I find myself kind of sputtering trying to put it into words. Because, we'd just sit there and he would point at certain things and say, this is what you should do. If you see somebody, getting bullied or whatnot, you need to be like Superman. You need to step in and say, hey, you need to stop, kind of a thing. And he used kind of that philosophical nature saying that don't just stand back and let things happen. And he would always say, don't, just remember, if you can, be like Superman. And Dad even used to read comics to some of the kids at my elementary school, which, again, hilarious because he had dyslexia. He would read anything that was not Dr. Seuss because Dr. Seuss was a nightmare for him. And honestly, it's a nightmare for me too. I cannot read that.
That makes sense.
Just because it's so, too many things, it's too rhymey, God. If you're genuinely curious, just kind of, Google how dyslexics read, and it's about accurate, it's difficult. But, and that kind of brings me into my second point, because when I say that my dad loved comics, he loved every kind of comic. I, unfortunately, have a lot of very early Liefeld.
Oh my God. Dad, oh no, he was a Liefeld fan. No. Oh. He just lost so many points with me.
My dad bought a little bit of everything. So I want to use Liefeld as kind of a pinpoint to show the absolute range. And admittedly, this is just a lot of the early stuff Liefeld drew, thankfully written by other people.
Oh,
Dad hooked on Image really quickly. He really liked Image. I actually have I have the original Wildcats trade, actually.
I really want to go back and explain to your dad what Liefeld did to Jack Kirby's widow so badly. I really want to. Like
Dad would have been very pissed off. So rest assured of that. Admittedly, I probably doubt he even knew Liefeld from A Hole in the Ground.
Like, ugh, just like, ugh.
My dad loved the macho crap. Like, Steven Seagal's Under Siege was a family film in my household. Steven Seagal has a knife fight with Tommy Lee Jones, and I vividly remember watching that as a child.
See, so many pockets, bro. So many pockets.
Oh, my dad believed in pockets.
Oh.
He would wear overalls and carry a satchel when he would go for walks.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, we actually, at the funeral, we actually had Dad in a pair of brand new overalls because that man wore overalls every day of his life.
Wait. You put him in overalls?
The last time my father wore a collared shirt, I'm like an actual collared shirt, suit jacket kind of situation, was the day my parents got married.
Wow.
My dad's parents, so my paternal grandparents, were from Tennessee. And like I have a picture on the dresser behind me of my dad. I want to say it's in like the late 80s with my great grandmother, and he's wearing fucking overalls. Like, so no, we had a T-shirt that had his favorite Chesty Puller quote, and Chesty Puller was a Marine Corps officer. He's legendary. And a pair of overalls that Victoria, God love her, the day after he died, I want to say within a few days after he died, Victoria went out to try and find overalls.
Wow.
And he also had a sword, too.
A sword?
I almost wish we had pictures of him in the
Overalls
cat.
and a sword?
That was my father. Like, that was my father. Overalls and a goddamn sword. Like,
that's epic, bro.
That's pretty good, honestly.
And because he was wearing overalls, because my parents were in a medieval recreation group. It's like the Civil War reenactors, but for medieval nerds.
So LARPing.
Yes and no. It's the Society for Creative Anachronism. It's a little hard to describe, but just they're all giant history nerds. And my mom leaned really hard into our Swedish heritage, and Dad was a Viking berserker because Vikings are fun,
Yeah.
And so there was actually a tourney, and unfortunately, a lot of this fighting is how he got concussions because it simulated medieval combat. So that plus military equals dying in your early 60s, apparently. Sorry, Mom. But I believe it was like a grand melee where he actually ended up winning a solidly constructed archaeological replica of a Viking sword that they found, I believe, in Berka, which is a massive Viking, if you will, archaeological dig in Sweden. So
Wow.
it's hefted like a Viking sword. And granted, these swords historically, they weren't made to cut; they were made to break. So they didn't cut off your arm, but it shattered every bone in your arm.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, the sword's probably, oh my god, over 5 feet long. So we had it in the casket with him, and wrapped around his hands were his Catholic rosary and his Catholic baptismal candle.
Wow.
So that's just a bit of my dad in a nutshell. But to kind of pull myself back from a tangent, Dad would often try to read to, kindergartners and first graders, second graders when I was in elementary school. And one day, one of the little boys that, because I believe it was a kindergarten class, and one of the little boys who was black had been wearing a Superman shirt. And Dad witnessed an altercation between a couple of the kids, and one kid saying that the little boy can't wear a Superman shirt because there are no black superheroes. Or that, black people couldn't be superheroes. And the exact nature of the setup, I did not find out until years later because, Dad's not going to recount that story to me in its entirety. So it may have been the same day, it may have been a few days later, but I went out on the porch to sit with my dad, and he had a stack of comics that he wanted to talk to me about. And they were Milestone books. Because Dad, I obviously, he interceded in the altercation, but they're kindergartners, so reasoning, I don't understand children, so I'm just going to assume the situation was handled appropriately. Children terrify me; they're just little goblins.
God,
particularly like that young. Like I want to apologize to my dad for ever being that young. Anyway, Mary doesn't want kids. Sorry, Mom.
Oh, come on. You and Victoria would be great parents.
No, we would not.
I really think y'all would be baller parents.
Do not make me go get her. Like, I like being an aunt. I have, 2 nephews and a niece, and I dig that. I have an older brother, and he can do the kid stuff.
I'll be honest with you, it kind of just sounds like you don't want to deal with all the negative effects of a child.
Because literally, you and Victoria would raise the most baller ass kid, and you're just saying no because you don't want to deal with children. It's like y'all would make the most baller ass kid ever.
I feel like I personally am not attentive enough to have a child. Like, I just don't know if that's something I could feel comfortable doing.
I mean, to be fair, once they get to 6, you can start teaching them things, and I can trust Cece with a few things, and later on, I'll be able to trust her with more things.
I mean, but Travis, you're probably a better parent than I would be.
See, I don't think about it like that. People think I'm a bad parent and shit because, I talk to Cece like she's a grown ass woman, and I cuss so much that we actually have to. That's because you
respect your daughter,
Well, that's true too, but on the same hand, it's like. I don't know, I cuss a lot in front of her, and I don't really filter what we watch because I try to be like, hey, you're 6, you're not supposed to understand this stuff, so just enjoy the music or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? But I don't know, the only way you can be a bad parent is if they're not fed, they're dirty, and don't have anywhere to live. You know what I mean? You just gotta keep them alive, fed, and clean, and love them. That's it. It's way easier than you think.
It sounds like you're trying to pitch having a pet.
Oh my god!
Just clean the cage, make sure they've got food.
It isn't that hard, Mary. Gosh,
they're very similar, but a pet is lower maintenance than a child.
Let me put it this way: I will leave that to Victoria, who works in foster care.
Ooh. So that's why y'all don't want no kids.
I will let her figure that out.
That's why y'all don't want no kids.
She loves working with kids, but she also likes being able to give them back.
Be away from them?
Yeah. No, Victoria works with foster parents and foster kids, and I think that may have killed any vibe she wanted to have children.
See, I've never dealt with that world. I dealt with the easy way where my genetics are this is your genetics being passed on. Love it with everything you have. And that's kind of just me being an animal.
You didn't pull out, did you, Travis?
No.
Because my mother might listen to this.
All right.
And honestly, I'm a homosexual, so I want to, do as nature intended. And I feel like I, as a cis homosexual, it's just nature's population control,
Ma'am, have you met Neil Patrick Harris? He takes his kids to Disney World every 5 days. Not literally, but he and his husband are great parents. You could do it too. You ain't special.
Do you want to try and convince Victoria?
I wouldn't. That wouldn't go.
I also have this image of Mary being no, put Batwoman down, and then disaster strikes.
Let me give you an example of the parenting that I got. My dad taught me how to use a chainsaw. Sounds dope, right?
No. Right. How old are you?
5.
Let me choke on my beer. Oh my god.
Less dope suddenly.
he held the weight while I chopped through the branch. And I went inside and excitedly told my mom what we had done, and my mom almost had a damn heart attack, and she lit into my dad. And my dad said, "What? She was wearing safety goggles."
God, your dad. So, like, I'm gonna just use this as the opportunity to say, as I've said before, like, from the stories that you've told us, like, about your dad, I kind of like aspire to be able to take like Cece's favorite works of fiction and like pull a lesson out of it and like hand it to her like that. And on the same hand, I was 100% and still am that parent. I haven't done it with a chainsaw. That's a little extreme.
Hey, I was wearing safety goggles. Nothing could have gone wrong in that situation. But my dad was very much, here, play with these matches and figure out fire's hot kind of a thing. You'll learn.
Wow.
You ain't gonna yourself again now, are you?
But that day we settled down on the porch with a stack of milestone books that he had gone out to get. And I think he had some of them because I have a lot of because I have Icon's first issue and a lot of Icon's early stuff. Dad really liked Icon. Dad loved any Superman variant, to be completely honest.
Did you go pick up the new issue?
Oh God, not yet. Victoria, we've been limiting our excursions during the pandemic.
Honestly, it literally is just a rehash of issue 1 from the original run, so you're not missing much.
And I'm kind of disappointed with what's been out.
No, Static 1 was very, like, by the book, but the new issue was really good. I will say that. Like, Vita had to set the groundwork, they did what they needed to do, and then the new issue... I hate that the new issue pretty much just outed Virgil out the gate. That kind of pissed me off, but, like, I'm excited to see what, like, their plans are, because Vita has a really cool thing going here, and I want to see what they're throwing down. And then the Icon book, Reggie is very much like, I'm gonna stick to what is known. I'm not gonna dive too far off the pot. And I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. You're rehashing for the sake of new readers. Okay, issue 2, you better pick up your feet and do something with it.
But we settled in with that, and he said, something basically to the effect of, I want you to make sure that you understand that anybody and everybody can be a superhero. So he started walking through, and he did allude to comparisons between Icon and Superman because he wanted me to make that connection in my head that, okay, here's Superman and here's this other character who is similar to Superman. So, in my 6-year-old brain, I would understand the connection between the two. And, we would walk through it and he would point out, Icon doing superhero things. And
it's really good. You should get ready for a bath.
I love her sass. I love it.
We'll talk about it later, but you're going to bathe tonight, okay? Go on back.
You're going to bathe tonight. I love it so much.
I feel like this is a perfect episode for Cece to pipe in.
Right?
Like dad talk about dad stuff. Like this is perfect.
Yeah. But, and he would say, and I remember very clearly him saying that just because, somebody is Black or is, Hispanic or Asian, he said that doesn't limit who can become a superhero. And I know it sounds a little too much like an after-school special a la 1998.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, my dad was a worldly man, and he did a lot of things that, in my dad's mind, everybody was an American to him, And everyone, again, my father was unwaveringly patriotic at the worst of times. But he wanted to make sure that everybody got treated with that same level of respect and decency and compassion. That, it was our job as, people to be like Superman and make sure that everything was safe for everyone. And he wanted to make damn well sure that I any notion like that in my head of, oh, okay, because these people are white, I guess that means the little kid with the little black boy with the Superman t-shirt can't be a superhero, And I very much appreciate those lessons because he also didn't sugarcoat it for me either. And he would say, look, when I was a bit older, I want to say maybe around 10 or so, that's when we got into broader conversations about representation. Because that was something that weighed on him very heavily. That, there wasn't a more spread out representation. God, I cannot talk tonight, Jesus.
You got this.
But he would often seek out, what representation he could find. Because I know, like I said, that's where my milestone collection, that's where it got started. Is that I actually had a decent start. And I had to replace some of them because why would you let the covers fall off, Dad? I buy them to read them. Shut up. But, and he was very blunt about it. That, he would flat out say, look, this is wrong. That, I should be able to open up. And, Storm, for example, he talked about Storm because this was probably around 2000 when the first X-Men movie came out. Everyone take a second and feel really old. And I remember asking something to the effect of, why is Storm the only Black person there? Because that's about the age where you start to get a bit more self-aware of just the wider scale of what representation is, kind of a thing. And you start to really pick up on the intricacies, or at least, this is the case for white people. And Dad looked at me, and I remember this very clearly. He said, because people are fucking stupid. And, he would use that and tied it into a larger conversation about the civil rights movement, the Civil War, for example. Oh my God. My dad was obsessed with, war history, basically, because the man was a Marine. And stacks upon stacks of books about the Civil War. And I am almost 30 years old, and I do not miss having to dust that goddamn bookshelf. And, my dad was very, very adamant that people know the truth of history. So at no point was my dad doing the whole, it was about states' rights, blah, blah, blah. And, keep in mind, my dad's parents were from the South, and he said, no, the entire Civil War was about the fact, that slavery, they wanted to keep their slaves because I believe the word he used was, oh God, pig bitches, I think was the word he used.
We just wanted to protect our land from them northerners.
He called them pig bitch plantation owners. But Dad told me about a story where he and his buddy went down to Tennessee to see my great aunts and great uncles, and they went out to a bar. And they were, they may have been my grandmother's children, but they were firmly Yankees. That. Have you ever seen Deliverance?
Oh my God.
That's the kind of...
Is this where the overalls are coming from?
Travis, they're Tennessee mountain folk.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh yeah, no, my great uncle Wiley. We went for a big visit when I was a kid, and he had a still somewhere. Wouldn't tell us where it was because you never know when the government's gonna try to come and bust his still. But no, they are Tennessee mountain folk. So it's not like respectable Southern. It's, the don't go into the woods at night, because you never know what's out there Southern.
It's the, hey, can you show me where Walmart is? Back the way you came.
Exactly. No. We went on this trip, and my mother, my mother is from Cleveland.
Hey, Cleveland.
So my mom's from Cleveland, downtown metropolitan Cleveland. And so you take this poor woman and drop her in the middle of the Cumberland Gap in Tennessee, because my Uncle Wiley, my great uncle's house was built into the side of the mountain.
Oh man, that's one of those I was born in this house, I'm gonna die in this house type of motherfuckers then.
Yes. And actually, fun story about that, they lost their original land.
Oh, wow.
Let's see if I can do anything about that.
because their original land was flooded after the Manhattan Project.
Oh.
The Manhattan Project, the ones where they made the atomic bombs that we then dropped on Japan.
Uh-huh.
And another fun fact is that they would dump some of that nuclear waste just in the water supply because we didn't understand it.
Oh.
So that's the water that my family would, drink from and do their laundry in.
It's confirmed. Mary's families are mutants. It's confirmed.
Actually, my dad had a spinal condition where he was missing a vertebrae entirely.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And the one on top was twice the size that it should be, and the one underneath was half the size that it should be. So the man had chronic back pain that started to oh my god, what's the word I'm thinking of? Started to pop up when he entered his 30s, when certain things or proteins or whatever kind of from, the ones that keep you young and happy, those start to kind of like go away. And it seemed like whatever was there wore down over time, and the issue started to present itself. So, the man walked with a cane for most of his middle-aged life. And he would often use that cane to hit people.
That
But
sounded
anyway,
like some flashback.
it was. But my dad's cane was solid wood. And there was one time he was taking the dog on a walk through the park, and he'd taken the dog off the leash. Dog's name was Bjorn. He was half Chow, half Labrador, so just the most adorable ball of black fluff. He looked like a little black cloud. But no, he was such a good dog. He had taken him off leash and let him run around the park, and Bjorn liked to play in the little creek there. And these couple teenage kids kind of came up seeing an older looking guy with a cane, thinking it's an easy mark.
No.
And now this park is by the riverbank, so there's a lot of trees around, so it's very secluded. There's a lot of flood dike work, so it's, very walled in. And Dad just kind of turned around, and I think one of them had some kind of like a pocket knife or whatever, and Dad just picked up his cane and apparently beat these boys about the head and shoulders.
Hell yeah.
And then he lets out a whistle, and Bjorn comes tearing up out of the water, all teeth and snarl. And so, we weren't there for this, but he comes back home and we're just hanging out. It's like a Sunday, and Dad goes inside to get a dish towel and is wiping blood off of his cane. And
so your dad is Stick.
Yeah. Because, he's just, casually wiping blood off of his cane, and Mom's like, oh my god, what the hell happened? And he said, what happened? And she's like, I'm calling the police. He says, why bother? They won't do it again. And, in that moment, I was not convinced that he didn't kill them and just roll them into the river. But, so, my dad was a very strange, very complicated figure. They're from Tennessee mountain folk, and pulling back from the tangent to the tangent about, Dad and his feelings about history of the Civil War, he and his buddy went out drinking at the bar in that area of Tennessee, and they were getting, these are, good old boys, they're getting rowdy, hooting and hollering, and my dad said, hey, watch this. He would have been about, 23, 24 at the time, maybe? Stood up, raised his beer, and said, the South will rise again. And everybody started hooting and hollering, and Dad said, just high enough to kiss a Yankee's ass. And then they ran.
Wow.
They ran. Apparently,
Well, yeah.
Apparently they ran all the way back to Wiley's house.
Wow.
Smart, because they were asking for it.
Oh yeah, no, he claims one of these guys brought out one of his guns that he kept in the truck.
Oh my god.
But that's the kind of suicidal bravery my father had in the early 20s, in his early years.
Wow.
But Dad, he genuinely believed in just the truth of history, and I think a lot of what is happening now would have greatly upset him. Fortunately, from a certain perspective, he was completely oh god, I have a stutter.
What's the word?
Communicative.
Good job. Proud of you.
I'm getting emotional, so my stutter is really kicking up.
Honey, I have a stutter all the time. I totally understand.
But he wasn't there anymore during the entire Trump administration. So that was nice
Thank
from
God.
a certain perspective.
Thank God.
But uh
You didn't
when a
go through
lot
the
of
stress
these
we did.
high profile cases, I remember it was the Trayvon Martin verdict, because we were watching the news when that verdict dropped, and my dad, he just got real quiet. He went outside because he was just ashamed and upset that, this was a child that, should have been protected and wasn't. And the man who butchered him wasn't even brought to justice. And my dad put so much faith in the legal system throughout his life. And it's just, he was just real quiet the rest of the night. So, all of the Black Lives Matter protests and whatnot, I think it would have broken his heart. I really genuinely do. When the National Guard fired on launched the tear gas at protesters so Trump could go take that bullshit picture in front of that
Lafayette Park.
Lafayette Park, he would have wept.
There are literal protests in Lafayette Park daily.
Yeah.
Daily.
And I mean, and the fact, my father would have been absolutely aghast at the fact that the U.S. military was taking, what is considered militaristic action against its own citizens. Like, it would have broken his heart completely. And honestly, I consider it a mercy that he didn't have to see that. Like, I mean, I know this was supposed to be about comic books, but I could sit here and tell ridiculous story after ridiculous story.
No, this was your time, and you're doing it well, so that's what matters. Like,
one of my favorite stories is shortly after 9/11. And I want to say this is maybe within a week after 9/11. There was a Muslim family that lived in the neighborhood, and their son Muhammad went to elementary school. And we all shopped at the same grocery store because, the neighborhoods in this city are very tight-knit. And we all shopped at the same grocery store. So, we were all making our usual Sunday trip because, that's when they had the best specials. I don't know why I'm explaining grocery stores to people. Oh, by the way, grocery stores have sales sometimes.
hey man, yeah, they do. It's pretty baller.
Helpful tip to the average consumer. But we went in, we did our shopping, and we ran into Muhammad and his parents, and we stopped and said hello. They were Afghan refugees that had come over after Desert Storm. At least I think that was the case. But I remember very clearly the fact that they were Afghan. But we exchanged pleasantries, and I remember it being they were very tense and looked very uncomfortable. The father kept kind of looking around, understandably so. And we part ways and we finish our shopping, and as we're going back into the parking lot, we hear yelling. And we all kind of stick our heads out because this is the Midwest and we're nosy. And we see these young guys giving Muhammad and his family shit. And they've got his dad on his back against the car. He's trying to get his wife and son into the car. And these guys just will not stop. I mean, they're think of any colorful name you can think of, and that's what they were calling this poor man and his family. And in a second, my dad is gone. And he's come stomping up. And my dad was a bear of a man. Like, in his boots, because he wore, like, these specially constructed boots that were designed, like, to support his arches, but also to, like, bust people in half.
Nice.
His shoe size was 13 triple E.
Oh, that's a breaker right there. That's someone who's gonna bust a whole foot up someone's ass.
Yep,
Yes.
and the boots were rubber soles and steel toes.
Oh.
So with those boots, he was well over 6 feet tall. I mean, very large. And at this point, my dad always had a beard, and at this point it was still very red. So, he came up looking like a fucking demon. and picks one of these guys up by the neck and just slams him down on the parking lot. And, kind of, I vaguely remember shoving the other dude back, and mom's like, God damn it, get in the car. And, so she's trying to get my brother and I in the car. And you just hear my dad go off, basically saying this man and his family are just trying to shop. He pulls back, and my dad's favorite thing to do was to take those 13 Triple E steel-toed boots and step on people's necks.
Oh.
So he put a foot on this man's neck and kind of like held the other one in, grabbed him by the shirt and held him close, and basically said, this man is more of an American than you will ever hope to be.
Hell yeah.
And of course, someone in the grocery store called the police. They had a payphone right there. The cops come. My mom's trying to explain. My poor mother. She's trying to explain the situation. And Dad was acquainted with the cop that came through the VA. They were both veterans. And so my dad was let off with a very stern warning. Just a very stern warning. And
Fucking put a boot on someone's neck, you get a stern warning.
Well, of course, And then Mohammed's parents, they lived a few streets over. They came by with some of the most amazing Afghan dessert. Oh my God. His mom made some of the most incredible dessert. And she brought it over, and Dad dragged the grill out, because my father loved two things, cigars and grilling. And because there was, a Muslim family close in the neighborhood, and Dad would often just have cookouts where people, doesn't matter where you were coming from, you could just walk up and ask for a plate, and Dad would make you a plate. So he started spending the extra money, and this is when we still had the extra money to spend. He'd go to a halal butcher, and that's because the family they kept halal, which I don't know the specifics of it, but I know it is a certain way that Muslim meat is prepared. So, but it's I can only assume it's similar to like having something be kosher. But, so he even tried to make sure that, there was food everyone could eat. There was, I don't think we had anyone who kept kosher in the neighborhood, but he still bought Hebrew Nationals all the time. Sidebar, Hebrew Nationals are delicious. They're all beef hot dogs. But, so this is just kind of the random shit my dad would do. And, like, this, I know it sounds like I am just pulling shit out of my ass. Like, I know it sounds like this stuff is almost too fantastical to be true, but, like, my dad was almost too fantastical to be true. Like, so, tangent after goddamn tangent, but, my dad, looping as far back as I can, my dad wanted me to know for certain that a hero's skin color didn't matter. A hero's religion didn't matter, even I'm sure he would have done this, but a hero's, gender identity or sexuality wouldn't have mattered. What mattered about a hero was the fact that they saved people. They protected those who could not protect themselves. So, and kind of, I feel like I can combine these next 2 points. And point number 6, I will be talking about. I know we might have to cut this short, but I will be talking about point number 6.
Oh no.
That's why. Yeah, you boys can scroll up. I put it in all caps.
No, I see it. I saw it earlier. That's why I started cracking up when you put it in the damn show notes.
Yep. But the character that I arguably love the most, it's kind of neck and neck between Batwoman and Wonder Woman most of the time. But I think we can mostly say that my favorite superhero is Wonder Woman. And believe it or not, it is my mother's fault.
Impressive.
Because Dad was starting to show me his comic books, and it was a lot of Superman and Fantastic Four and yada yada yada. And my mom stuck her head out one day and said, if you're gonna make her read these things, can you at least find one with a woman? Because my mother was a very staunch second wave feminist. I was not allowed to watch Disney princess films growing up, because she didn't want me to get the opinion that I needed a man to come save me.
Wow.
I was not allowed. I as an almost 30-year-old woman, have never seen The Little Mermaid.
Wow.
You really don't need to, if we're being honest. You don't need to.
I mean, I went back and watched Snow White and Cinderella as classic cinema much, much, much older. Because, my parents, they loved art. And mom liked the just the stylistic beauty of Snow White. But no, I don't think I've ever seen Sleeping Beauty. I got to read all the fairy tales instead, and let me tell you, The Little Mermaid is fucking horrifying.
Oh yes, it is.
With her bleeding feet. Whoa.
Yeah. I got to watch Mulan because she was a woman who fought.
Yes.
I got to watch The Lion King because animals, like the ones that had animals like Robin Hood, the lion, those were fine. Inexplicably, I got to watch Aladdin, and I think that's just because my parents liked Robin Williams. And I vaguely remember Jasmine having a tiger.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I think that's why too. But yeah, those were the only two.
To be fair, Jasmine was kind of like a slip-in Disney princess because the movie is about like how Aladdin like woos her.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like a consequential character.
And I think my dad also really just liked the book. Oh God, what is it? 1001 Arabian Nights, or is it 2001?
Something like that.
The larger collection of stories that Aladdin is from, Dad also just really liked that book. I got to watch Hercules. I like Hercules.
Hercules.
I didn't get to watch Tarzan because I don't think my mom likes Phil Collins.
Phil Collins is awesome.
He went so hard on that soundtrack for you.
Did that for us. He did that for us, Mary. He didn't have to do it. He did it for us.
He fucking did it anyway.
But, my parents leaned very hard into, like, obviously pre-Disney Pixar films and, like, DreamWorks. They loved Shrek. But, so I actually wasn't allowed to consume a lot of this media. The first time I actually saw Beauty and the Beast was when my high school did a musical of it and I stage managed it. I still have never seen the film.
Just don't watch the Emma Watson version because it's a little rough.
Yeah, I've heard.
I mean, to be fair, if you're an adult watching a Disney princess movie as a new experience, it's all gonna be a little rough.
But that should tell you the unholy shitstorm of media consumption that my childhood was. Honestly, if I wasn't so sure that I was gay the day I was born, it would have been my dad and the things that, he watched. Because I watched Xena a lot as a kid. I watched, the Linda Carter Wonder Woman show as a kid. Dad watched Buffy. Really, what was it? Ally McBeal. Ally McBeal. Both my parents liked Ally McBeal. Mom liked that it was a show about powerful lady lawyers, and Dad liked it was a show about ladies. But so yeah, just a lot of women in my house from two very, very different perspectives. So I think that might be how I ended up gay. But so Mom demanded that if I was going to read his comic books, that there had to be a woman, and
okay, so Mary, what Disney princess movie have you not seen? Because like I wanna hear your like super like de Beauvoir reading feminist perspective on a fucking Disney princess movie.
I told my mom, hard second wave feminist. She actually marched on Washington for the Equal Rights Amendment. That should show you how hard she went. I told her that you were reading de Beauvoir, and she went, good for him. And I said, well, Travis has a daughter, and she went, good for her. So you have my mom's crazy 70s feminist seal of approval.
Sick. I can get down with 70s radicals. They got shit done.
Oh yeah. I think I was looking for something in my mom's dresser because my parents' dressers were just like, it was kind of like going on an archaeological dig. You never knew what era of time you were going to find something. I think I found my mom's like free Angela Davis, one of her like free Angela Davis buttons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So like that's how hard my mom went. I actually don't think she ever like fully got into Gloria Steinem though. She did not like Betty Friedan. Sorry. Just critiquing my mother's feminist taste.
And you were upset earlier thinking she was going to listen to this and you're still going?
Well, I mean,
She's going to throw a fit.
I mean, my mom's no shrinking flower. Hey, mom, fuck you. So
Damn.
there you go. And I'm sure I will get a phone call of fuck you too. So, so yeah, the swearing, it comes from my mother.
Interesting.
I was a teenager and I had said fuck. I think I was about 15 and I said fuck in some sentence. And my mom sat me down and she said, "Now, God damn it, Mary, you will not fucking swear in this house." And she just stopped. And my dad started to laugh his goddamn ass off and my mom just walked away. Because
That's
they knew there was,
fantastic.
yep, you will not fucking swear in this house. And whoop, that didn't last. I was cleared to swear as long as I didn't say fuck. But so dad, when he would try to point at various women in comic books, and mom said, "That's not what I mean, and you know that." So he grumbled and went and bought a bunch of, scrolled like the dollar bin and bought a bunch of old Perez Wonder Woman issues, and even some Robert Kanger, God help me. And the first issue of Wonder Woman that I got, it was one where because it used to be that Wonder Woman would lose her abilities if she was chained up by a man. Very subtle, I know. And
What?
yes, that's in William Moulton Marston's original thing, and it carried all the way through to a crisis, is that Wonder Woman would lose all of her powers and abilities if she was physically chained by a man.
Travis, do we need to do a Wonder Woman episode? Because it seems like you don't know any of the stuff that we talked about with you previously all of a sudden.
See, we have not talked about this because
Yes,
I
we
remember we
have.
talked about her
We've
being a
talked about this
dominatrix. I don't
We've
remember.
we've talked about this before several times.
I blame the weed.
But I mean, admittedly, these are some very some early points that DC has admittedly done a lot to try and cover up.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily because they're ashamed of it, but because the references themselves are dated. Like, the Wonder Woman losing her powers if she's chained up by a man is very powerful imagery from, the 30s through to the 70s. Because Wonder Woman, H.G. Peter, the original artist for Wonder Woman, designed the character breaking the chains of the patriarchy, if you will, based off of suffragette artwork in the early 1900s and 1920s. So there are very specific reasons why some of these influences are there. But so she gets chained up by this evil man and realizes, wait, he's just an android and, he's a robot. So she breaks out and whoops everybody's ass. I thought that had been lost, and I actually found it going through a bunch of my old dad's books. And so it was just kind of a very strange moment. But so he went out and he bought a bunch of Perez issues. And we'd sit down and I'm like, "Oh, it's the TV show." And he went, "Yep." And so we'd go through and he'd talk about it. And, Perez's Wonder Woman run is very, it's probably the best run. And y'all know how much I love Greg Rucka.
Yes.
Let me just put it that Rucka builds off of Perez's greatness. And, he goes through, like, see, she can still, you can still, be a woman, but also rip these people in half kind of a thing. And he used that and he compared it a lot to Xena, which, again, I've watched a lot of Xena. Oh my god, I'm lesbian. I feel like I had no hope. Dad, you did this to me.
You really didn't have a choice.
There's a scene. Have either of you seen Under Siege?
I don't believe I have.
It's a movie with Steven Seagal about it's either a ship or, it's a ship that gets taken over by terrorists or whatever, and it's like Tommy Lee Jones and like Greg Busey. And
to be honest with you, that sounds like some 90s, late 80s, early 90s action cringe.
It is. And admittedly, the final scene, the final battle is a knife fight between like 90s Tommy Lee Jones and 90s Steven Seagal. But there's a character who I think she's a stripper, but she pops up, she's doing the whole supposed to pop up out of a cake and ends up in a gunfight. Yada. She was always my favorite, and I never really knew why.
Now you do.
Titties, that's why. Oh shit, sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Please don't.
Oh, this is fun.
But and it was doing the whole scene. You can still essentially they kind of used it to counteract the typical, I'm using air quotes here, but princess narrative. And admittedly, there are a lot of women my age, slightly older, whatnot, that, do take offense to that notion sometimes that, Victoria, for example, watched Disney princess films and, she doesn't feel like that she was, subversely like messaged that she had to wait for, like, she's just as gay as I ended up.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm just coming at this from the perspective of which my parents viewed it, is that, because, whenever I say that, oh, I wasn't allowed to watch Disney growing up, I get a lot of people like, oh, well, insert female relative or myself watch Disney, but I also did this. Like, it's fine. Like, that's just my mother's perspective. Like, it doesn't make her any more right or them them wrong. So that's just the way that my parents were coming at it. And, dad would basically say, look, you can still be a princess and a warrior, and Xena, warrior princess.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Very clever.
And so he kind of mushed all that together for me, and I think that is the root of my Lucy Lawless would have been the perfect Wonder Woman thing comes from.
Oh, definitely.
Like 1990s Lucy Lawless as Wonder Woman. Yes, I need that.
That would have been baller.
I will go back in time and make it happen.
Bro, no, just give her an animated role. Like deadass. Just
Right.
give her an animated Wonder Woman and roll with it.
But, and so, naturally that spread out to the other Amazons. I really liked Philippus, Hippolyta, Nubia, Artemis. Really liked Artemis. What is it with me and redheads? I think it was comic books because, Artemis, Poison Ivy, Batgirl, Batwoman. But, so naturally I really latched on to all of the other Amazons because they were all super dope in their own rights. And I think that is why I attached myself so hard to Wonder Woman and to Themyscira, because what George Perez's run does right is that it's not just it is all of Themyscira. So you have a lot of different characters, and this is where I actually get frustrated with more modern Wonder Woman narratives, is that it's just Wonder Woman, and that's why Steve always has to tag along.
Damn, Steve.
Because, they've removed a lot of other Themysciran influence. And see, here's the thing. I don't like Steve and Diana because for the longest time, that's not what it was. It was, in George Perez's, the run that he established, Diana's like, you're cool, but no thank you. Like, Steve Trevor was married to Etta Candy. Like,
yeah,
it bothers me so much.
We gotta have Steve and Diana doing the thing. Otherwise, they'll think she's not straight.
Admittedly, that's why I'm also not really a fan of, like, gay Etta Candy, is because, like, in my mind, she's still married to Steve Trevor.
That's valid.
But I know that, myself as a lesbian, a lot of people think that's a very strange stance to take. But and I feel like the whole my dad and Wonder Woman thing, I feel like that's really self-explanatory. I also think he just really liked the costume.
Mm.
Yeah, my dad was a man. No, he liked he just enjoyed women in all of their facets. But oh god, my computer screen shut off. But
no.
so I Wonder Woman is obviously very self-explanatory. He used that to say, look, girls can be superheroes too. Or just because this character is a girl doesn't mean that she can't also be a hero. And there were lessons about, and this was a conversation that would have been very relevant at the time, because it's really only until recently has, what lady heroes wear in comic books actually take off beyond feminist circles. And so there were conversations about various outfits of, like Black Canary and Wonder Woman and yada yada. It was basically just armored bikinis and fishnets. So there were conversations about that because, it would have been very easy for me to look at that and develop body image issues. Now I just like food and don't like to run. So that's what'd you say?
So that's relatable.
Yeah. And it's the conversations themselves at this point are actually quite dated because some of the costumes of these characters haven't been the same for better on 20 years now.
Yeah, that's true.
So, obviously, the conversations are still valid, without a doubt. It's just those specific conversations I had with my dad in like 2001 probably aren't, you know?
Uh-huh.
But, dad actually, took paper towel rolls and an old thing of yellow rope that he had, and he spray painted the paper towel rolls gold and gave me like this yellow camping cording or whatever, and so I got to run around and play Wonder Woman. I was Mary Marvel for a few Halloweens because Mary.
Oh, that's very
And
funny.
and he painted a like little Shazam shirt for me.
That's gotta drive you nuts that like Mary Marvel is just perpetually stuck to her sibling's hip now.
Right, it does bother me. But my parents were big Doctor Who fans in, you know, obviously the 60s and 70s and whatnot. And there were numerous VHS tapes that had a lot of Tom Baker Doctor because that was my mother's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a dog, and I really liked Sarah Jane. So my poor father took like a cardboard box and did some shit to it and wrote like canine on the side and let me put it on the dog so I could run around and pretend to be Sarah Jane and Bjorn had to be canine. And this poor dog just looked miserable the entire time. He's like, why? Why are you letting this happen? I am wearing a cardboard box. So I mean, that's just kind of the stupid nerdy shit my dad used to do for me. Moving on to the next point, because unfortunately this episode it's just Mary rambles because she misses her dad.
Hey, this was planned. This is your time.
True. But the X-Men were another big figure in my house. My mom actually had a few X-Men comics. Mom really liked God Loves Man Kills.
Oh,
which,
really? Why? What the fuck?
It was the 80s.
Mary's mother, we need to have a conversation.
She wouldn't, James. That you don't want to meet that woman in a dark alley.
I would show you so many better X-Men comics than God Loves Man Kills. I could show you the world. I could show you so much better.
James,
oh God.
If my dad couldn't, in all, you know, the 30 plus years my parents were together, couldn't get her to pick up more than 2 comic books, I don't think you could. Because she had a copy of God Loves Man Kills, the Camelot 3000 single issues, and a short Madame Xanadu run. And those were the books that she had. The rest were my dad. But so no, the X-Men were a very present figure in my house. And, you know, we watched, I had VHS recordings of the cartoon because I was a little too young, you know. I want to say it went off the air in 92.
And this is the...
X-Men the Animated Series.
Yes.
So there were a lot of VHS recordings because I have a brother who's 9 years older than I am. So we had mountains of VHS recordings of like Thundercats and Transformers and He-Man and X-Men.
Thundercats are loose.
So I watched a lot of Thundercats. So much Thundercats.
But see, like, what I need you to do is to find the 2011 Thundercats, and that way you understand what good culture is. Because
I hear you, James, but
don't do this, Travis. Don't do this
without Mumra being like, you don't get the other
Evil
stuff.
exists. Mumra lives.
But Travis, Kevin Michael Richardson is Panthro. Like, just come
I'm not
with me.
disagreeing with you. I loved that Thundercats, and I watched it religiously.
Like thick ass black man.
I watched that Thundercats.
Okay, thank you.
I was in college. I watched it.
As Lion-O was epic as fuck.
Oh my god! Cheetara was my favorite. God damn it, Dad. oh god,
yep.
And so much G.I. Joe. So much G.I. Joe.
As long as it wasn't Sigma 6, that's all that matters, because Sigma 6 was horrible.
James, this is like I'm talking like the Hasbro shit from the
I know.
80s.
I know. I'm just being a smart ass
Yeah.
because like I have a boner hate like a hate boner for Sigma 6. Because it was Hasbro's way of going, hey, what are those kids like? The animes? We'll pay a Japanese company to make an anime of Joe, and it was horrible.
The animes?
Bro, Google it. G.I. Joe Sigma 6. It literally has Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! As the voice of Duke. It has Mei from Pokemon as the voice of Scarlet. And it is the most cringy ass shit you will ever fucking watch. Oh my. Oh.
All right, to the Google we go.
The
I was
the
spoiled on
original-
anime.
The original G.I. Joe movie, the one that had, oh god, Serpentor.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was the original G.I. Joe movie. We had it on
What the
VHS.
fuck is this?
And the opening credits were just this big, like, it was just America thrown at the screen. Sometimes my dad would put in the VHS just to watch, like, that opening 3-minute montage, and then he would rewind it and put it back.
That's hilarious.
Do you guys know how dope we were in the 90s? We had a
How dope
VHS
we
rewinder.
Bro, I had a rewinder too. I
What?
loved that fucking
Was it a
thing.
little car? I had a little car.
No, it was just a basic one, but we had a VHS rewinder.
I had a car one too, Travis.
We even had the cleaner tape that you could put into the actual VCR.
Yeah.
Oh god, and then there was
Maybe.
fucking Shusha.
Shusha?
Shusha, it was a kids show.
I don't know what Shusha is.
From what I understand, it was a Brazilian kids show that had a brief run in the United States that they tried to do an American variant of the show. And she was a very attractive Brazilian model, and my dad always made a point to watch Shusha with me.
What was it like? XUXA?
Yeah, Shusha.
What the fuck am I looking
Oh
at?
my
right now?
god, this is garbage.
What Sigma 6? Yeah, bro.
What?
Listen,
Shusha?
but like,
Shusha.
no, he still stuck on Sigma 6, and I sent him
Oh,
down
good God.
I sent him down the 4 kids rabbit hole, and now he's like scarred.
Why would you do this to Travis? What did Travis do
See,
to you?
I'm so glad I watched, like, and I hate to be the guy to say this because I normally shame people who say this, but I'm really glad I grew up with real anime.
But no, like Travis, this
Old
was
man
in the
Travis makes an appearance.
Well, no, like this was in the era where like 4Kids was trying to license anything they can get their hands on, like One Piece, Shaman King, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, whatever the fuck, and they were like, "We're gonna make our own GI Joe," and it was so bad.
That hurts me.
Yeah, see, I would rather watch Code Lyoko 8 times over.
Yeah, Code Lyoko was the French taking a stab at anime, and it was fucking amazing.
It was actually pretty, except for everyone having giant heads, it was pretty good.
That's why I couldn't get into it. The heads were way too big.
The heads were perfect. The heads were glorious. Like everybody but the gym teacher had a giant head, and I loved it. Like it was hilarious.
I hated the heads thing. I'll be honest. That
And
was
then-
like,
You know what was the best weird attempt at anime?
What?
Totally Spies.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I fuck with Totally Spies heavy.
Stop.
they had an Alfred, a
Well,
legit
stop.
whole ass Alfred.
Hey, his name was Jerry, and you will respect him.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Jerry is Alfred's
Jerry
like,
he wasn't
cousin.
Alfred. He was Charlie. He
Alfred's cousin.
He wasn't Alfred. He was Charlie. He was like basically just Charlie's Angels in person. Like it's what it was. Like
God damn it,
Jerry
we
was a
watched-
G.
I just realized we watched a lot of, like those 2 Charlie's Angels movies. God
played
damn it,
Prodigy
Dad!
all the time.
Realizing
Okay.
I'm just realizing as a child I consumed a lot of like media that had very powerful women and yeah, I see what you were getting there, Dad.
Yeah, and then you watch Demi Moore shoot the 3 of them.
Bro.
God, what is it? The opening scene of Full Throttle where she shoots Bruce Willis. That was like around the time of their divorce.
Yep.
Yeah, that shit was wild.
And then Bernie Mac rolls in like, "Yo, what's up?" And I'm like, "Bro, too soon."
You ain't never heard of no Black Irish.
Oh God. So
I
Mary,
will say this.
it's
Complete
tough.
tangent.
Go for
I
it.
don't trust people that don't like Lucy Liu. I don't trust them.
Well, now we have Lucy Liu coming out and speaking ill on fucking what's his face and like calling him out for what happened. Now every like white person is throwing shade at Lucy Liu right now, and it's like, what the
Wait, what's happening? I love her.
You didn't hear about this?
No.
Oh God.
Who's
hold on.
hurting her? Did she do something? Oh God, I
So,
cannot survive if she did something.
Hold on. So what's his face? Ghostbusters, Osmosis Jones. I can't think. Who's the one that like everybody fucking hates or like loves? Oh yeah, Bill Murray. Bill Murray apparently was like creeping the fuck on Lucy Liu during the first Charlie's Angels, and because he wouldn't show up certain days, they rewrote certain scenes that way he wasn't there. And apparently he like threw a lot of shade at Lucy because of it, and she like came out and spoke on it, and now every white person is mad at her now.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, out of all the old celebrities, I expect Bill Murray to have creeped on a lot of people. He just gives that energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the fact that it was Lucy Liu, like, man, fuck, god damn it, Bill. God damn it, Bill.
I will run out and I will, Lucy, I've got you. Don't worry.
Right, I will back Lucy over Bill, but fuck, dude, that's a lot of movies I won't be able to watch anymore.
Right. So, Mary,
anyway.
I need you to explain your hatred of Warlord. Oh God! Oh God! Now we're talking about the same Warlord, right? The DC Warlord.
Yes, Travis Morgan.
Okay, cool. Wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure.
Okay. Okay. My dad's favorite comic of all time was fucking Warlord. And when that pipe broke in the bathroom flooded. That was the only
God.
That was the only book to survive in its near entirety. I have over 100 issues of that book that I can't emotionally part with. That is my dad's ultimate fuck you. It's like, oh, I'm gonna die and leave y'all sad and shit, but guess what? You can't get rid of these. And it's just because he would make me read Warlord just to be an asshole. And I never really got into the story. And it was just always really super boring, and he just kept making me read it, and I started to develop a vendetta, because I'm like 11, and I don't want to read Warlord. I want to read like Green Lantern or Wonder Woman, and he's like, no, you have to read this.
Read Warlord.
You have to have the ghetto shit where you can have the good shit.
Yeah. So you know how, and I'm sure, you both are certified men people.
I'm looking at Warlord right now, and I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, Warlord was definitely one of those niche books at DC back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And did they pull this man straight out of the frames of the 80s like animated movie Heavy Metal? Because that's what he fucking looks like.
I love Heavy Metal.
Oh, God.
Tarna! Dude, fucking Tarna!
Yeah.
My mom actually said there was an underground movie theater here in town, and she said that she and her friends got really high and went to see Heavy Metal.
That's awesome.
We had it on VHS, actually.
I always forget that Warlord had like more runs of books in like the early 2000s.
Oh yeah. But because it had such legendary talent like Ron Randall and Mike Grell attached to it, it went on for fucking ever.
Did you get your dad the Convergence Tony Daniel cover with Warlord on it?
There's a very specific story about that.
Really?
Yes. Because I was working, now, just for clarity's sake, I don't actually hate Warlord for any particular reason. It's just like, that one thing your parents really like and they make you do even though you don't really want to. That's Warlord.
Like camping.
Yeah. Like
camping. You don't like camping? The fuck?
No. It's the stereotypical thing that like dads do to kids. They take them camping, and then the kids end up hating camping years later.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that's me and Warlord. And now that he's gone, and I'm sad and miss him and shit, now I can't get rid of them because, like, oh, they were dads and he loved them, and I'm like, God damn it! So you know where they are? They're in a box in a closet downstairs.
Your pops got you from beyond the grave with that. That's fucking hilarious.
I love that.
It's my dad. But no, there's actually a very specific story about Warlord's appearance in Convergence. And if you are unfamiliar with the DC Convergence event, or even just Warlord in general, Warlord had really fallen out of publication for many moons. It was published briefly in the early 2000s, I think, but the book didn't really last. And it never really captured that kind of popularity that it did when Grell and Randall and company were on the book.
Mm-hmm.
So when they pulled the evil wizard from Convergence out of, evil wizard from Warlord out of their hat for Convergence, needless to say, it was the biggest hit out of left field DC could have come up with.
Honestly, yeah. You're right.
And so you have Travis, the Warlord's name is Travis Morgan, and his girlfriend, whose name I don't remember, his wife, I don't know, they had a baby, I think. She basically just looks like Red Sonja. But, Travis ends up giving his life to try and stop the evil wizard from doing some comic book shenanigans and ending the multiverse.
Damn, Travis, good job.
And, it's a very emotional, very sacrificial, honestly, quite a gruesome death. And at this point, this would have been about, 2015 or so?
Something like that. Yeah, 2015 was when Convergence started.
My dad, due to the brain degeneration and the dyslexia, had quite frankly lost his ability to read at that point. So like he could see the words and kind of piece them together, but his brain, they just really couldn't make the connection. Like if it was like on a billboard and shit, he could easily make that out, but having to try and, look at the comic book, all of pieces, so it just kind of fell apart. So I grabbed the issue. First of all, we were unpacking the books and I saw him on the cover and I went, "Are you fucking kidding me?" So then I open it up and I see fucking Warlord, Travis Morgan in the comic, and he's all dying and shit. I'm like, God fucking damn it. So we swung by my parents' house after work that day and I had the issue with me. This was the day it released. And we walked in, said our hellos, and I showed Dad the issue, and he went, "Oh, cool, Warlord." And I said, "Okay." Then I opened up to the pages and I explained the event a little bit. And I showed him the thing and I said, "Okay, insert evil wizard is, trying to destroy the multiverse or whatever. And Travis is trying to stop him." And Travis's death in Convergence kind of slows things down just enough that, the other heroes can do some shenanigans. Look, the easiest way to describe Convergence is shenanigans. Like it's
like we're definitely gonna cover Convergence at some point, at least in a small amount, because it'll be on the episode where I'm thinking we're gonna say episode 70. I'm gonna put it in the planner. Whenever episode 70 hits, as long as it's not Christmas, James is gonna explain why he hates the New 52, and we're gonna go through it. So we're gonna say episode 7. Actually, 75. 75 is the perfect number. It is the perfect quintessential. Yes, 75. We're gonna do the why James hates the New 52. Okay.
Convergence in a nutshell was publication of the New 52 had become so hectic at that point, they literally had to pull the entire multiverse together to try and fix it.
Or, they were moving offices, so they needed to just buy themselves time while they moved offices.
What makes Convergence significant in terms of publication is that there were 42 issue tie-in books. Mm-hmm. And some of these characters had not been published in decades, and some of these characters will probably never be published again.
Probably not.
So anyway, that's what makes the event significant. But I have the issue open and I'm showing my dad and he's looking at the artwork and he gets this little smile on his face and he's turning the page and he sees the page where Travis dies and he gets really emotional. And Dad didn't cry much, but he would get misty at times. And he just got really misty and choked up and he looked down at the issue and said, "Attaboy, Travis."
Hey.
Wow, that was two totally different male responses there. Oh my God.
Right. But no, he just said, "Attaboy, Travis," and then he handed me the book back.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
So how you want to wrap this one up? You deserve the right to wrap this one up.
Oh God, I don't know. Comic books can be used for a multitude of reasons. It's not just escapism. It's not just, bad guys getting beat up by good guys. They can be used for deeper meanings. And my dad used comic books to teach me philosophy, to teach me, morality, not like gross religious morality, but like ethical morality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, he did so much with them and made them an integral part of my life. And, I sit here surrounded by comic books and comic paraphernalia. And that's because of him. Oh, bonus story. Just real short bonus story.
Go for it.
How I came out to my dad.
Yes.
I don't know if any of you knew this, but I am a certified homosexual.
Oh my gosh, we didn't know.
I know. Wait till my wife finds out. But I was 18. This was my senior year of high school. He and I had gotten into a fight about something. And I'm sitting on the couch. We're in the living room. He's in his chair. Mom's in hers. I'm on the couch, which was directly across from them. Mom is sitting there trying to get us to stop yelling at each other. And, I truthfully, I do not remember what we were fighting about. But, this was one of the few times I actually barked back against him because, someone with Marine Corps discipline, it is very hard to argue with them. And I just blurted it out. I said, I'm gay. And Dad looked at me dead in the eye and went, so you're still in trouble.
That's fucking great.
and I lost it. I broke down in hysterical sobs. I had been terrified to tell him because my dad politically could be very conservative. And I fucking lost it. And my mom's jaw rolled off the floor because my mom knew I was gay a few years before Dad did. And I begged her not to tell him. I was afraid because, all queer people, you're always afraid to tell at least one of your parents, And, my parents, they had tons of gay friends. They were very tolerant. But, with some people, it's different when it's their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's the wrong thing, in my opinion. But it is how a lot of people are, is that it's different when it's family. So, I broke down sobbing. My mom her jaw's on the floor, and my dad looks scared. And he looks over at my mom and goes, should she not be in trouble? Like, it wasn't even the fact that I was gay. He thought I was just that upset that I was in trouble. And mom just kind of there were words exchanged. I was too busy crying. And he just got up and he sat down next to me on the couch, gave me a hug. And long story short, I was indeed still in trouble. It was really cute. My dad was very awkward, and there was one day where I had gone up the stairs for something. I was standing at the base of the stairs. He was letting me know that he was about to take the dog for a walk, and he said, I just want you to know that if you ever have a friend or something you want to bring over, you can do that. You know that, right? And he was trying to tell me that if I had a girlfriend, I could bring her home, and I'm like, Dad, I'm not seeing anybody. He went, oh, okay, good. He did not know how to talk about that stuff because with my brother, that's one thing because my brother and I.
Oh, get him, son.
My brother and I have different biological fathers, so my brother was probably about 6 or 7 when my dad came into his life. Oh. Now, to my brother, my dad was his dad. There is no convincing him otherwise. And, okay. But so we have the same dad, if that makes sense. Yes. But and my brother's a man, yada yada, but I'm the daughter. My brother's 9 years older than I am. A lot of people are actually really weirded out to find out that I have an older brother. But I like my brother, we just don't really have a lot in common.
Don't worry, you got 2 better ones over here.
No. I like Nielsen. I objectively like Nielsen probably a little more than I like the 2 of you.
Oh!
How are you offended? He's family. Have you seen none of the Fast and Furious movies? None of them?
Sir, have you not watched the Fast and Furious movies where they're none of them are related except for apparently now John Cena and Vin Diesel and Vin Diesel's sister? Come on. I
haven't watched since Tokyo Drift, so I got to avoid all that.
Honestly, bro, at this point, you and I are basically just Tyrese and Ludacris writing down Mary's story at this point. Come on, this is a thing.
Wait, which one of you has to be Ludacris?
Me.
Yeah, he objectively has to be Ludacris, and I'm the one who has to be Tyrese. It makes sense.
There's an afro and a baldness to designate what's going on.
Come on, it's a thing. So,
although it is weird that you got the street racer guy who was organizing the street races. Now he's hacker man.
Right? It was such a weird transition. I don't know how they did that, but it's whatever. But nah, in general, That was basically the origin story that I've wanted to bring on the show for a long time, of how one of the coolest motherfuckers ever created one of the other coolest motherfuckers I know. So thank you for almost making me cry twice, and thank you.
It's hard, and I miss him. And I'm the one that ended up with his ashes because my brother has kids, and mom, I love you, mom. You probably would lose him. Mom also just doesn't have the display space for it.
That's just great though. You're just like, you would probably lose our father.
Mom would be the first to tell you that it would get put up somewhere, and then my family has a like a condition where we put things up somewhere and then we can't find them for like 6 to 7 years. And I'm fully convinced my dad's gonna turn into a poltergeist just to be an asshole, like gonna start moving himself around the room at various points. We're gonna wake up, he's just gonna be floating there.
I love that.
But it's hard, and I miss him, and I'm actually really glad I kind of got this opportunity to. I guess this is more or less a eulogy.
That's why I'm calling it a memorial for a hero, and you're gonna deal with it.
Oh god damn it! Now you're gonna make me fucking cry. But the final note I want to make is that when Dad did pass, there was some money, but funerals are really expensive. I don't know. Yeah, we learned that the fucking hard way.
That's why I just cremated my mom. I said, you ain't getting a funeral, and you didn't want a funeral to begin with, so I don't care.
Well, even then, even the cremation, it was because we were in a bizarre position because we had to fulfill my dad's last request. And this should tell you more than anything the kind of man my dad was.
Oh dear.
Dad had a degenerative brain condition. And research into something like CTE is sparse and it is difficult to do. And if you've noticed that when some of these old NFL players will kill themselves, they will hang themselves, cut their wrists, shoot themselves in the heart, basically leaving their brains undamaged so they can be used for study. And it was actually the last legal paperwork that my dad was able to sign himself was that he wanted his brain donated upon his death. I believe it was Boston University that ended up getting it.
Nice.
And we didn't realize that their current study his brain might not have been eligible for their current study. So we were freaking the hell out thinking, oh my God, they're not going to take it. But they did end up taking it. They were very interested in the military induced explosive trauma. And he had looked at my mom, and I was there. He was telling us about the decision, and he looked at my mom and said, make this fucking worth it. That, if research, because what they do is essentially they take the brain and slice it up into really tiny, thin slices to look at every single aspect of the brain.
Wow.
And even if it just means better padding on Pee-wee football helmets, that will be enough for him.
That's freaking
so they had to fly somebody out from Boston to come and get it. And we got a donor card, and it takes about 8 to 12 months, so we won't know for still quite a long time, but they'll send us like an official diagnosis and whatnot. But that should tell you the kind of man that he was, that he went out of his way to find the proper study to donate his brain. And this wasn't just like, oh, I'm an organ donor. This was, he wanted this specifically done. So I got to make the joke at the wake for the funeral that he was actually empty-headed.
Wow.
I mean, Travis, remember last week? She didn't give a fuck when it comes to jokes. So, like, we should expect nothing less.
I made that joke to my mom, and I thought she was gonna laugh so hard.
And then she probably just got super angry, didn't she?
No, oh god, no, not in my family.
Okay.
No. Being a dick to each other, that's how we say we love each other. I take the time to give you both a really hard time. It's because I love you guys. And that's why Victoria and I kind of have like that. We have that jokey, mean disposition to each other.
Yeah, it kind of concerns me sometimes.
Oh god, no. Like, it's nothing like that. It's just, like my dad used to say, if I take the time to be a dick, that means I like you,
Right, last one for the night, okay?
I'm thirsty.
We have water now.
Water.
Water is your best friend. It will keep you hydrated.
You don't need 17 Otter Pops, okay?
Yeah.
What the fuck is an Otter Pop?
Delicious.
You don't know what an Otter Pop is? What?
Okay, no, I'm on CC side now.
What the fuck is an otter pop? Is this like the like the frozen pop things, bro? You realize how many generic names those things have? You realize how many like literally like we Travis, we grew up in the hood. We know these things have a million different generic names.
They're always otter pops.
Oh my god. Anyway,
Travis, I'm officially on CC's side. Give her like 9 more.
So Marion, thank you for this
Yes.
because I needed this. This would like I've been waiting for this for like a few
Travis,
weeks now.
did you really drop a link for Otter Pops in the Discord?
God damn it. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Panel to Panel. It's definitely a tearjerker. It's definitely emotional for us. But next week, we are diving head first into our 60th episode. And we have been saving this for a juicy one. As you folks know, we have started a tradition in which it didn't start on every 10th episode, but we're gonna start making it every 10th or every 20th, whatever happens. It's a work in progress, but we're going to make it a regular thing that we roast a hell of an event, a book we don't like, something.
Just like generally critically panned things. Like
yes.
Our Cry for Justice episode. Oh my god, that was so much fun.
Like we've done Cry for Justice, we've done All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder.
I'm still having nightmares about our stupid All-Star Batman and I tried to give that book a literary look. I tried to link it to the hero's journey or like
you did.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. Where I need someone to point exactly where in the hero's journey. Fucking an ally while your enemies burn to death is a part of the hero's journey.
We keep our masks on.
I mean, like, I even tried to okay, well, maybe it's a Greek tragedy. No.
She tried so hard.
It's an American tragedy. It's an American tragedy.
Next week, we are diving headfirst into one that the three of us have been holding off for a hot minute because we've talked about it before that this show comes off as a very primary DC Comics focused show, either DC or indie because we cover a lot of indie like Kickstarters and whatnot. But this time, we are diving over to the red state, folks, because we are going straight into Marvel's most hated comic book event of the past 20 years. And we are talking about Civil War II by Brian Michael Bendis. So get ready for that, folks.
I have so much to say. Like, how do you single-handed, sure, maybe Rhodey died, but Carol's the one that got assassinated.
Like, bro, literally,
how you give one of the most powerful Marvel characters a Karen haircut and then make her Karen throughout the entire continuity.
But and the thing was, she rocked that cut. But the fact that you did her so dirty, literally, the teaser for this episode is just the disrespect to Carol Danvers because they're like, we don't want to do Tony dirty. We have to make him the sympathetic person because of how it went in Civil War I. So we're gonna just character assassinate Carol Danvers and leave bodies next to her like Bruce fucking Banner. And it's just but we'll get there. Folks, don't forget, you can listen to this podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Audible.com. You can listen to us on Pandora and anywhere else you listen to your podcast, except for SoundCloud, because we do not support SoundCloud in this house. You can follow us on... What's up?
An everlasting hate boner for SoundCloud.
We've addressed this multiple times. SoundCloud.
I know.
Travis...
Travis says, fuck you, Craig, whenever we record, and my thing is to talk about how much you hate SoundCloud.
Yes, because SoundCloud, if you ever get off your fucking hate boner and stop trying to make people pay to put their stuff on your platform and just do what Apple, one of the biggest corporations in the fucking world, just lets you do and put up your RSS feed, then we'll talk. But until then, fuck you, SoundCloud. And from there, you can follow us on Twitter at PTP_podcast. We are always looking to add more people to our roster on Comics Ground or to our podcast network. So if you have an idea for a show or if you want to be one of our contributors to write articles or reviews, please let us know by shooting us a Twitter message or emailing us. Our email is listed on the Twitter page, so please make sure you check us out at On Comics Ground. And Travis, after that emotional roller coaster we have taken this evening, what is your closing statement for this episode of Panel to Panel?
Hey, Mary. So before we go our separate ways, I have a question for you. Do
Oh,
you
dear.
know? Do you know how to instantly make James freak the fuck out?
Oh,
no.
tell me. Tell me.
Oh, no.
Legend of the White Dragon looks really good, and I'm excited for Eric Reed to come out on screen.
Oh, it's so bad. He has so much. He's so mad that he can't be a Power Ranger anymore, so people can suck his dick. So he has to make his own fucking franchise. It's so stupid.
Oh yes, he's still freaking out.
Travis fully dipped out of the chat as soon as he said that. Oh my god, that was amazing. Thank you, Travis.
For those who don't know, I've never covered it on Panel to Panel, but me and Jason David Frank have a long talk ahead of us the day I ever meet him. So I am the first person who will say that he has effectively damned the Power Rangers franchise to never be fully successful because he refuses to get off his fucking high horse and realize there are better Rangers than him in Power Rangers. Anyway,
Hey, he's a different Ranger in Legend of the White Dragon.
He's not even a Ranger. He's some random thing he made up off his stupid head. Anyway, Mary,
James,
this is your episode.
Do you want a feel good story about Jason David Frank?
No.
No. You'll like this one. You'll like this one. In the Mighty Morphin movie reboot, which was incredible, go fuck yourself, people. That movie was just as campy as it needed to be.
Are you talking about the whole thing where he got kicked from the theater?
Yeah, he got kicked out of the theater because he stood up to try and film a reaction. They're like, no recording devices.
Yeah, because he thinks he's all that in a bag of chips that he needed to sit there and watch people see that he had his ponytail back. He's a fucking idiot.
I was like, I saw the scene and I'm like, oh, Amy Jo Johnson. And I'm like, wait, oh, okay, it's Jason David Frank. Okay.
Yeah.
I was more excited to see Amy Jo Johnson. Like,
and then this is I'm gonna say this one real quick. This is my closing statement, by the way, because I'm letting Mary go last. It's her episode. But Jason David Frank, I think you were amazing in the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I think you needed to shut the fuck up and get off my show after when season 2 hit and you lost your powers because in the Sentai your character died. And the fact is, we can't kill you on a Saban Brands TV show, but you could certainly have lost your powers and let somebody else come in. But on top of the fact, you thought you were so high off your horse and Saban let you stroke your dick that you needed to be the leader of the Power Rangers over the Red Ranger, even though every other season in the franchise has made the Red Ranger be the effective leader. So you can kiss my black ass. And Mary, this is your episode. I'm going to let you finish. What is your closing statement for this episode of Panel to Panel?
Trini was always my favorite because she was a girl and didn't have to wear a skirt.
Yes, and funnily enough,
because her character was a man.
Funnily enough, in the newest season, the Green Ranger is a girl, and she has a whole scene where she physically tears off her skirt, and all the white fanboys got so mad about it, and it's hysterical.
But no, Trini was my favorite because she was a girl and she didn't have to wear a skirt. Because I'm like, yeah. So Trini was my favorite. My actual closing. Oh god, that breaks my damn heart. She was so young.
Yes.
But it was nice. It's been difficult to talk about this and what he meant to me, and the grief has been really overwhelming at times, and I'm looking into grief counseling and things like that. His nursing home actually offers grief counseling. And when he died and we had to leave the room so the CNAs could come in and clean up the body and whatnot. Victoria and we stayed there all night, and we were with him when he died. I had my hand on his chest, and every time he exhaled, I told him I loved him. So that was the last thing he heard. And my mom, God love her, she got there about 30 seconds too late. As we were leaving the room, one of the CNAs stopped us, and she said, "I'm very sorry for your loss, and I want you to know that he was deeply loved here by us and by the staff. So that's not just a platitude because he's gone. We are hurting with you." And that's something I think about a lot because my dad was he was mentally ill, so there were rough times, but he was just a genuinely affable figure and so much. He had the capacity for just so much love, and I miss him every day. And God damn it. I'm really thankful to both of you that you let me have this opportunity, and to everybody that listened, thank you. I'm gonna go cry now.
Mary.
Love you too.
Love you so
Oh,
much.
God damn it.
Thank you, folks, listening to this episode of Panel to Panel. We will be back next week for after this sadness. We will be going into straight rage mode, talking about how Bendis turned Carol into a psychopath. So tune in for that episode of Panel to Panel, folks. Peace out.